Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcons vs. Bucs Week 2 post-game show. I am your host, Kevin Knight, joined by my co-host tonight. He is Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way. Adnan, how are you doing tonight?
Better than I was at this time last week. I'll definitely say that.
Yes, slightly better, we'll say. But I don't know. I'm not that impressed. I think it was better, and I think there were certainly some positive things, and it's always nice to be able to enjoy the game, even if it was only for a quarter. We got a nice third quarter in there, but it was better than last week, so I will give it that. But the Falcons did still get their behinds handed to them by the Buccaneers to the tune of 48-25, which is a 23-point loss, which is incredible considering that the Falcons were trailing by just 3 late in the third quarter. Matt Ryan had 2 passes deflected into the air that were returned for touchdowns, and the Bucs sort of laid it on the Falcons at the end of the game. After the Falcons honestly made it a game, so we went from like a total blowout early to, okay, maybe this is actually happening, to it's a total blowout late. So we've traveled a long way over the course of the game today, Adnan. So obviously not as bad as last week, but are you encouraged at all by today's performance, or is it sort of all negative feelings for you?
No, I'm definitely encouraged, and uh, this game went about exactly as I thought it would. I don't know if you remember, but my bold prediction for this game during the show and on this Bucks podcast that I was the guest on this week was that the Falcons would be within 1 score in the fourth quarter,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually started out the fourth quarter down by only 3. They even had the ball down by only 3, albeit deep in their territory because of a really, really nice punt from the Bucks punter who did much better than Nazilic on the Falcons end. But I'm sure we'll get
Yeah,
to that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, this is one of those weird division games where when you're looking at it pure logically, uh, the Falcons should have completely gotten blown out, and that's the way it was looking when it was 28-10,
Right,
and
right.
and it's like, oh, like, damn, they're gonna absolutely like run us off the field. But Falcons and Bucks, this all-time series now is tied at 29-29. 17 out of the last 27 games in this series have been 1 score games, uh, with a couple of those games being 1 score in the fourth, and then like one team running away with it at the end to make it a 2 score game. I was definitely encouraged. The offense looked better. The defense, yeah, they forced a nice turnover. AJ Terrell had that superhuman like dive,
Yeah,
which ended
yeah,
up giving a concussion, unfortunately. And hopefully he can work through the protocol in time for next week's game 3.
yeah.
Um, I wasn't ever expecting us to win this game, and I don't even think the most optimistic of Falcons fans were expecting a win. But it's nice to see some fight because last week it was just like it was just purely heinous the entire way from start to finish.
Hmm.
Um, and you went to the onto the field of the defending Super Bowl champions on their grass field. I don't want to say turf because they don't have turf, but
Right, right. Yeah.
yeah, you went over there and you gave them a scare. We almost came, but we were almost the team that made the like complete comeback,
Right.
which was
Hmm.
which how about that for a change? Matt Ryan looked pretty good, especially given the fact that he was having to dodge players in the backfield throughout most of the afternoon. This was one of the best. I understand there were the interceptions. Not all of them were his fault. The pick sixes can't happen, but overall, this was one of the better games from Matt Ryan that I've seen in a while.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
certainly much better than last week. But yeah, this team definitely still has its warts. It still has its holes, and the one thing that I'm taking away from it is, at least there's something to build off of, and at least, there's something that we can kind of hang our hat on a little bit, as opposed to last week when there was just nothing of the sort.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean there are some positives, like the offense was semi-functional in this game for decent stretches, and like I mean, you can't really blame the quarterback for having his pass tipped at the line. That's sort of more of an offensive line problem. And maybe you're like, oh, you should just chuck it up in the air. But I mean, depending on the route, you can't exactly chuck it up in the air. I mean, you can't just arc a ball for a short to intermediate route. I mean, so, yeah, and I mean, go
but
ahead.
I will say the offensive line sucks. Like the
Yeah,
offensive line is
the
still
offensive line
very
is bad.
bad, and I don't have much positives to say about the offensive line. Like Caleb McGarry,
He's the worst
he
offensive lineman right now. Yeah, Jalen
yeah,
Mayfield, played better, and McGarry did not. So,
Jalen Mayfield played well enough to play out the entire game. There was a decent chance that he was going to get pulled
yeah,
if he played very poorly after last week. Um, but yeah, it's Caleb McGarry, man. Like as of right now, he's a bust. Like this is year 3, and it's fair to start maybe using that term a little bit. I don't want to like I'm not going to say like he's an outright bust, like end of story, because the story's still being written.
right.
But he was like just in general, he's one of the poorer offensive linemen in the NFL. And you can't have that from someone whom you traded up for and spent a first rounder on. He was like as of right now, this team is not picking up his 5th-year option, and as of
No,
right now,
no.
right tackle is looking like one of the biggest areas of need moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, offensive line's definitely the biggest area of need, and like Jalen Mayfield wasn't good in this game, but I don't think he was as bad as McGarry, which is saying something. And I think also we expected Mayfield and Hennessy to struggle against Sue and Vita Vea, and I thought they did, I guess, as well as you could hope maybe against them. I mean, obviously those two weren't going to have a good game against those guys, and they didn't. I think throughout most of the game they were functional enough for the offense to run, but McGarry was the one I thought that was consistently getting bullied.
And the thing is, you're not grading McGarry and Jalen Mayfield on the same scale.
No,
We
no.
talked about it with Jalen Mayfield. He was not supposed to be a year 1 starter. He was thrust into this role as someone whose position you completely changed from where he played in college, and as someone whom you didn't even give that many snaps to at left guard, as many as you should have in training camp and in the preseason. Whereas Caleb McGarry, that's a first rounder whom you traded up for in year
Mhm.
3. He should be figuring it out right now. Like we should be talking about Caleb McGarry as like maybe not the elite of the elite, but we should be looking at him as all right. The right side of the offensive line, the right tackle position, that's solid. Like that's set. We've already spent our first rounder in him.
Right.
We gave a nice investment for it, and now it's paying off. But it's nothing of the sort. The fact that Mayfield and McGarry are looking similar right now is a huge issue.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. Like we're gonna give Mayfield the benefit of the doubt, considering all the things you mentioned. He's a third round pick, changing positions, playing probably earlier than he should have. McGarry's going into his 3rd year as a starter at right tackle, and he has no excuse for his play. Um, and I think we need to see Matt Gono, and I mean if McGarry doesn't improve, they will probably look to replace him next year. And forget the 5th-year option. That's totally off the table. I mean, it's going to be, we're talking about, are we drafting a tackle? Is Matt Gono getting in here at some point? I mean, it would be nice if Matt Gono could come in at some point in the season and show if maybe he could be the future at right tackle. I know there are a lot of Matt Gono fans out there. And I think we were all hoping to see him get a chance to either compete for right tackle or left guard. And unfortunately, back surgery during the offseason wasn't able to get a chance, but he is believed to be available at some point this season. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think the Falcons could afford to have a weak spot on the offensive line. You can't have 2. You can't have 3.
You can't have 3,
Yeah.
and that's what we were talking about during training camp. It was so important. Caleb McGarry was one of the most important players on this entire offense, on this entire team, because you have 2 strong points on the offensive line, 2 very solid linemen in Lindstrom and Jake Matthews, whom you can trust. 2 iffy offensive linemen in Hennessy and Mayfield, where you really don't have much of a choice but to start those guys who are both very young. And then you had to have Caleb McGarry as a strong point on this offensive line, because if you have an O-line with 3 weak points and 2 where more than half of it is a liability,
Yeah.
then you get something resembling what we saw in these first 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree. And like I thought that it was better. The offensive line as a whole played better. I thought, again, like Hennessy and Mayfield, not good, but against the level of competition they played, I thought they didn't hamstring the offense. But you can't have 2 guys in the middle getting bulldozed and your right tackle getting just waxed on a play-by-play basis. I mean, I think McGarry ended up giving up more pressures than Hennessy and Mayfield. I mean, I know Hennessy really struggled at the end of the game. I think earlier he was doing okay. Mayfield definitely didn't have a great game, but was doing okay. And then we have Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom, who are both fine, but it's just like you can't afford to have that many weak spots at once. So, I'm more concerned now about our first round trade up right tackle going into his 3rd season than I am about Matt Hennessy, who's making his 4th start this game, and Jalen Mayfield is making his 2nd start. I mean, I think they showed enough improvement from last week to this week where you're,
and
okay
I will
with that.
say
Yeah.
to the people in the chat, we are both with you. Evan Neal would be a fantastic addition to this offensive line.
Yeah,
I will sign up for that right now. Like, no arguments there for me. And if this team loses to the Giants, it may already be time for some draft takes.
Yes.
At that point, I'm not doing it yet.
No, not yet. Yeah, that does touch on George Costanza's donation. George with the $5. Thank you, George. He says punter's trash, O-line's trash. Pitts is great. Yes, I know you would appreciate Pitts in this game, George. He says, how many more weeks till we get our hashtag tank shots? Well, George, at least a few more. At least
not
a few
yet,
more.
George.
Yeah, we're getting there.
If we lose to the Giants, we can start having a discussion. We can start talking about it.
Yes,
because
exactly.
the Giants themselves, they're having some of their own issues. That Thursday night game was disgustingly heartbreaking for them.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll talk a little bit about the Giants today and sort of our outlook for. I think the outlook going forward should be rosier, if only because we're playing the Giants, but not the Bucs.
The schedule lightens up, and this is what I was starting to get into on Wednesday before everyone was saying there he goes again. Next week we get the Giants, then we get Washington. Washington should have lost that game on Thursday. Darius Slayton had an egregious drop, and then the Giants still won, but it was a terrible offside by Dexter Lawrence, who did not even affect the play on that offside.
Yeah.
Then you get Zach Wilson, who had more interceptions than he did completions this week, and the New York Jets are as many interceptions as completions. So, the schedule right now, the Falcons need to start going on a little bit of a run. And if they don't, then if we come out of these next 4 games after the Jets, which is in London, you have the bye week, and then you play the Dolphins. And Tua, he got hurt today, but even when he's not hurt, that Dolphins offense isn't really looking too hot anyway.
Right.
You should win with an extra week of preparation. If we come out of this losing 3 of those 4 games, then the season's buried. Like, the season's over and done before you've even gotten into your divisional games.
Yeah.
So right now, it should start getting a little bit better moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's important to note, but it's not fun to lose like this. That is for sure. And while I do like that the team made some positive, had some positive momentum in this game and did make some improvements, ultimately it's still a 23-point loss. So I don't know how. I'm not going to feel great about that no matter what. It's still a game that was well out of hand at the end, due to some ridiculousness, obviously, but still very bad. So yeah, let's move on to the defense here in just a second. But yeah, just a reminder, folks, if you're enjoying the show, if you like what we got, please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. Both of those things help us out. If you want to get a comment read like George, you can type in !tip into the chat. That will give you the link so you can tip or donate if you so choose. We do appreciate that as well. Thank you guys for all your support. And then check out the Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Falcoholic Live if you're interested in supporting the show on a monthly basis. Getting access to some exclusive content and perks, all that good stuff. So thank you guys. We do appreciate everyone who's signed up for that as well. But yeah, I mean, we'll get back to the offense, but let's go ahead and transition a little bit to the defense, because I think they had a shakier game overall here than against the Eagles, but it's kind of hard to say. I think they were playing a better opponent. But I think they played about as well as we could expect. And everyone remember, like, at least 14 points are solely, like 14 points were solely from the offense. So this defense really gave up a little over 30, which is still not great. But, what are your sort of overall thoughts on the defense there?
Yeah, and again, it's the same thing that we were getting at last week, and the same thing that we talked about right now with mcgarry and Mayfield. The offense and the defense is not graded on the same scale. It's not an apples-to-apples comparison just because this team has invested everything into the offense. They brought in an offensive-minded head coach, a lot more of the salary cap, a lot more of the draft picks, last year's number 1 draft pick, which was 4th overall, all invested into the offense. So the offense, of course, will get more scrutiny as a result. The defense, they did their job for the most part in this game. Like, of course, Tom Brady had 5 touchdowns, but Tom Brady also saw so many short fields. Thanks to the special teams, Cameron Nezialik was awful. He was brutal, and the team may be looking for a new punter this week, because that's enough to see that the punter gets replaced, because when that's your only job and when you're that bad at it throughout the course of an entire afternoon, then that's a massive issue. The offense, 14 of those points, the Bucs scored 48. So on the surface, you're thinking, oh my God, they absolutely lit the Falcons defense on flames. Like you said, 14 of those points came to pick sixes. So that's right away on the offense.
Yeah.
Another 7 came from another turnover where the Bucs got the ball in the red zone immediately.
Yeah.
And then you had those short fields that Nezialik gave them with his terrible punts. The defense at the very beginning got that turnover. Shout out to Dante Fowler. We've given him a hard time, but he had that strip sack, which the Falcons recovered. And the defense, when it was a 3-point game, they did their job. They had that Deion Jones blitz, which resulted in a sack, which resulted in a 4th and long eventually. I can't really sit here and just overly criticize the defense just given the circumstances and given the fact that they were, facing off against one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL on their own field. And Tom Brady, we know how much Dean Pease likes to blitz. No quarterback on the schedule will be better against the blitz than Tom Brady was this week moving forward.
He's so good at it. Yeah, he's just
one of the best, maybe the best all time against the blitz. The best all time, period, but especially against the blitz. But yeah, so I can't be mad. The defense, they got some plays, they got some stops when they needed to, some timely stops, and in the end, the Bucs just outlasted the Falcons, and they kind of ran away with it in the 4th quarter, which I was kind of expecting from the start. But yeah, the offense also has to put some more pressure on the Bucs from the very beginning. You can't just go down 28-10 committing turnovers. Then you just make it an entire nightmare for the defense. It's a no-win for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did about as much as we could expect. I mean, that is a very talent deficient unit overall. They just sort of need to do enough that the offense can keep pace, make a few stops here and there. Right now, the offense isn't up to snuff. This was a team that I think we all knew was going to have to win shootouts, more than likely, at least against good offenses. And right now, they can't play 4 quarters on offense. They go through stretches where the offense is completely broken down. It's just, there's still too many dumb mistakes. The team's still not on the same page. People weren't running the right routes. I mean, it was still a work in progress, clearly. So I think the defense is still good enough for them to be about a 500 team if the offense gets up to where we think they should be. But we've still got a ways to go before we see that. But I guess I'm not that upset at the defense in this one. I mean, I think expectations for them should be low overall. All right, let me get to some donations here. Thank you guys. We got Michael Zurich with the $1. He says, think the team, thank you, Michael, by the way. He says, the team played a lot better than I expected until the end, but they need to take advantage of these next 3 gimmies and run the table. It is interesting to see.
100% agreed.
Yeah,
100% agreed. Because I will say, if we're sitting here 3 weeks from now and we're 3-2, like, the playoff hype train, I'm driving the playoff hype train. Like, it'll be all aboard at that point. All you need to do is beat Daniel Jones, Taylor Heineke, and Zach Wilson. Like, I'm not asking for a lot. Just give me some. After the past 3 years, I'm not even expecting us to like go out there looking like, looking like world beaters. Just give me a crumb, and that's all I want. That's all I need to just start hyping this up.
Yeah. I mean, I think they definitely need to take advantage of these games. I think they need to go at least 2-1 through this stretch if they want to like get back on track. We'll see what happens. But yeah, and then he's also saying it's interesting to see Falcons fans go from cheering for Ryan to claiming he needs to be traded and Pitts is a bust. Yeah, that's just how it is. That's how it is pretty much all the time. Yeah. It's just ridiculous.
It's the life of being a fan. It's the fan base, everyone, we give our time to the Falcons. We are emotionally invested. React the way you'd like to react.
Yes.
If you want to overreact, if you don't want to overreact, it's your prerogative as a fan.
Exactly. So it's it is what it is. It happens. All right, Corey Carter with the $5. Thank you, Corey. We appreciate that, man. He says, seems like every time the intensity gets turned up in the fourth, we can't hold up on the offensive line, I assume he means, which results in Ryan getting crushed and throwing it in, and then people blame Ryan. Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Corey. I think the toughest time to play on the offensive line is late in the game when you're tired, when you're worn out, and when it's really crunch time and the other defense is coming at you with everything they've got. And you're really, it's just, there's inexperience. They're not used to playing together. Those blitzes are going to be killer against them until they start to get some continuity there and until Hennessy gets settled as a starting NFL center. I mean, like I said, this is 4th game. So he's got a ways to grow. At least I think in this game we saw some encouraging signs of growth from the offensive line against a truly dangerous front. That's interior and exterior rushers. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think it's Ryan's fault. I don't know that any quarterback's really going to be able to thrive behind this offensive line. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Not even a mobile one?
Maybe a mobile one. I don't know, but there's a chance maybe. Yeah.
No, we saw what Lamar Jackson was going through on Monday night, despite the fact that he's at this point, outside of Kyler Murray, the shiftiest quarterback in the NFL. I think Kyler's taken that title from him. But yeah, it's not even he was really doing anything. We saw Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Unless you have a good offensive line unit in front of you, I don't care how fast you are. You can only outrun the defense for so long. Exactly.
And just your offense is never going to be on schedule when your offensive line is that bad. So the Falcons have to get better there, and it has to be quick. So hopefully it will help. It will help. Next up, we got Matthew G with the $5. Matthew, thank you so much, man. We appreciate that. He says, can McGarry switch to guard since that was the recommendation on his NFL draft scouting report? Then maybe Mayfield could play right tackle, which was his college position. Yeah, Matthew, I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about McGarry at guard, and like I don't know that would or wouldn't work for him. The fact that they haven't tried it. I mean, they're going to try to play him a tackle, obviously. That may or may not end up working out for him. I think if he does end up flaming out in Atlanta, someone will probably give him a chance at guard or as a swing tackle maybe. I think he's good enough to be a swing tackle at least, but I doubt that they're going to move Mayfield to tackle because I truly think he was drafted to play guard. He doesn't really measure up very well as an NFL tackle. He doesn't have great length. And while he's like a good athlete for a guard, he's a below average athlete for a tackle. So I don't think it's wise to move Mayfield. It would be more like maybe somebody does choose to switch McGarry to guard if the Falcons move on. But then they're probably just looking for a new right tackle. And hopefully Mayfield continues to improve over the course of the year to where we're going into next year, reasonably happy with him at left guard, or at least, thinking that he has
I don't think Mayfield projects as a right tackle at the next level.
Yeah.
I think he was drafted with the sole with the sole goal of making him your left guard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think he's a better fit there. Would it have been nicer? Would he be playing better right now at right guard? Probably, because he hadn't played the left side in college.
But you're not moving Chris Lindstrom.
But you're not moving Chris Lindstrom, exactly. So just he's going to have to adjust. It's going to take time. But I think if he can just, like this week, he was a little bit of improvement. Say he was 10%, 20% better. I mean, I think he may have even been better than that, considering how bad he was last week. But if he can just get incrementally better each week, by the end of the season, we might be saying, okay, I mean, he's like a solid starter. We don't need to spend big resources on it, considering that he's young and we can give him more opportunities there. That's what we're hoping for. And that's the benefit of playing him and letting him get his lumps early, is that hopefully he develops a little bit faster as a result. But definitely he showed his mental toughness by not, kind of crumbling after a truly bad week one. He went out there and he battled with a very, very good front and did about as good as we probably could have hoped. All right, we got Soler, a.k.a. Guy Fieri, with the $1. Soler, thank you. He says, Cordaro Patterson is a god. That was a good pickup. Not too mad about the loss. Liked the defensive play calling by Dean Pease. But as you guys mentioned, mcgarry isn't it. Had a bad feeling we would start 0-2, and here we are. Think we might go on a little win streak from here. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't be shocked if they do put together a couple wins here. They need to keep this trend line of improving. Now, we can argue about whether improving from, last week to just a 23-point loss this week is really much improvement, but it's more about the overall takeaways from the game, and they're definitely playing an easier opponent next week in the Giants, so hopefully that will help.
Cordaro Patterson has looked really nice. It's been a hell of a pickup for only $3 million for this season. Last week he was the best player on the offense. And this week he came so close, inches away from scoring that amazing touchdown. Would have been his second of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to see the Wildcat again.
Yeah, at least get the snap off if you're going to do it. Jeez.
But yeah, Cordaro's been really nice. And, maybe he'll even keep Wayne Gallman inactive moving forward if he continues playing like this.
Yeah. It would not shock me. And I think he's earned every penny of that salary. I mean, he's looking like their best runner right now. He looks hard to tackle. I don't know why it's taken people so long to figure out how to use Cordaro Patterson, who's obviously a great weapon, a great player with the ball in his hands as an offensive player, but hopefully the Falcons are going to be the team to do that. So, I'm excited to see how he looks. All right, we got Kevin Wood the second with $5. Kevin, thank you. Kevin connection there. Appreciate that. He says, it was good to see some life today, but man, this O-line is a disaster.
Yep.
I don't want to hear about Ryan because he can only do so much when he has less than a second to get the ball away, which was how much time he had on that Devin White blitz.
But there was a move, Devin White came completely free and Ryan just sidestepped him in the pocket. It was actually really nice to see. But it's something where I hate that I have to see that. I hate that Ryan has to do that, because why aren't you picking up their linebacker on a blitz? This is football 101.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I think Hennessy is just a new center. And I think it definitely takes time and effort to learn that sort of stuff at the NFL level with these sort of exotic blitzes that NFL teams are going to throw at you. And he's got a lot of room to grow. He does, and it's going to have to happen quick, or else he's going to get his quarterback
killed. And the more that they work, all of that's on film. The more they work, the more teams will test you with them.
Yes, exactly. The only thing we can hope is that he continues to grow. I think he will, but it's going to be rough in the interim, and that's why it's always tough to play young centers early. It's just you're going to get some growing pains with him. And it was always going to look like this going from Alex Mack to a young center making his first few starts in the NFL. There's some things you just have to learn over time. And I think physically Hennessy is a very talented player. I think mentally he will get there, but it's going to take time. All right. Next one, we have Corey Carter with another $5. Thank you again, Corey. We appreciate that. He says, don't understand why Smith is running bunch formations on 3rd or 4th and short. In the 3rd, we ran trips right 11 and got stuffed. That happened more than once. Yeah, I mean, I think the the short distance play calling has been a little suspect thus far. Part of me thinks that's because, if you want my honest opinion, the offense is still not fully installed. I think they're sort of they still have the training wheels on, and part of that's the offensive line being just a huge liability, so they can't really uncork a lot of their plays that require Ryan to take more steps in his drop, that sort of thing. And I think part of it is that they haven't practiced enough of the playbook yet. They don't have it down to the level you would need to run it in those sort of clutch situations. And that's obviously an indictment on the coaching staff, but that's my honest opinion. I don't know that it's really a scheme issue. And I think if you want to take issue with Arthur Smith's fourth down decisions early in the game, absolutely have at him. He did make some better ones late. So hopefully it's not like he's just never going to go for it on fourth or something like that. That doesn't appear to be the case, but we just need better, consistent decision making there. All right. Yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on Smith's sort of short down and distance play calling and decision making?
I was scared after the first one because, you're playing the Bucs, you're in plus territory, it's 4th and 1, and you punt it away. That was pure cowardly. Like, that was a complete cowardly move, especially after the Bucs had just gone downfield and scored it. And it was inexplicable and confusing when the very next drive he went for it on 4th and 2 when the Falcons were in their own territory with the same score. So that was confusing, but I am glad that we did see more aggressiveness. Especially when you're an underdog like that. You have to go out there playing on the road. You have to, take some chances. And, it's easier to take a loss if you're going out there and you're going down swinging, so to speak, where, you're going for it on 4th downs, you're aggressive, your play calling is aggressive, as opposed to just going out there and just being a coward.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad that after that first one, Arthur Smith kind of, realized that a little bit and, kind of changed his mindset to be more aggressive. And, that's the kind of stuff you'll have to do as a team that doesn't have as much talent as some of the other teams, especially in games when you are the underdog. The Falcons will have to go out there and, go for it on 4th down a little bit this season, especially on 4th and short. And, they should be doing that either way when they're in plus territory because that's just analytics. But, I was not happy about it after they punted that first time, but I was very, very pleased and very encouraged by the trend that they took up afterwards.
Yeah. I think the fact that he did go for it correctly later several times shows me that it's not sort of he's just this way sort of thing. It was just sort of a bad decision, and those are going to happen. I don't care who you are as a coach. So, I need to see more. I need to see more consistent, better decision making, and there were obviously some suspect play calls, the Wildcat shit, just get that out of here. And like the quarterback sneak, like on 4th and 2, like if you want to do that, I would think you would need to have a really good offensive line or a really mobile quarterback. The Falcons don't have either one, so I don't really get it.
Yeah, the play call's a different story. Like, why are you sneaking Matt Ryan on 4th and 2?
Yeah, 4th and inches, like, sure, they could probably get an inch. They could probably get a few inches, but like 2 yards is a long way.
Especially when Vita Vea and Ndamukong 2 are in the middle.
Exactly. Yes. So it's just
I did like that 2-point conversion, the little read option.
Yes, exactly. But that was like a real play. Like they didn't line up like it was going to be a quarterback sneak and then do that. It was like just a crafty play call, and I liked that a lot better. I wish they would have just done something like that, and I don't think they need to do Wildcat either. Like I think the offense is good enough that you don't have to.
Yeah, enough with the gimmicks. The Wildcat was fine in 2007 when you had Ronnie Brown doing it, and it was completely innovative, and nobody really knew how to stop it at first. But just go out there and line up and play football, man.
Yeah.
Call your plays, execute your plays. Like, stop with the gimmicks, please.
Yes. And like, if you want Cordaro Patterson to get the ball like off the snap, just do a direct snap. Like line him up next to Ryan and direct snap it to Patterson and just do that. Like, because at least that would confuse the other team. Instead of having him as the quarterback, it's like, okay, well, he's clearly running the ball. Like, or you're doing some craziness. Like, just line up like you're running a real play and just direct snap it to Patterson if that's what you want. You know? I don't get it. But, all right. Got a couple more donations here. So, first of all, we got Guy Fieri again with the $1. Thank you, Solaire. He says, if anyone's bummed out, just remember the Saints lost to the Darnold. Jameis Winston reverted back to pre-LASIK version. Also, got a weird feeling that we beat the Bucs in December. I think it'll be one of our December wins. Not them, maybe the Bills. Yeah. Solaire, yes. That is the only thing that gives me hope today, was that the Saints looked like complete terrible trash. Yeah.
Yeah, like they were terrible.
Yeah.
And, maybe I think this kind of explains away that week one as the Packers just having their, like, game where they just completely shit the bed against an NFC opponent on the road.
Yeah.
We saw them do it last year against the Bucs. Like that just happens, and it looks like it just happened in week one. Like the Saints, they're not. I don't think the Saints are going to be a playoff team this year by any means.
No, I think week one was fool's gold for sure. I think they kind of jumped on the Packers early, went up big. Like, even though they got all those points, like Winston, like less than 150 yards. Like, I mean, it was not like they moved the ball. It was just like the Packers couldn't get out of their own way. So
yeah, and also as for the Falcons winning one of those games in December, how I feel about the Falcons beating the Bucs or the Bills will depend on what they do over the next couple months, because I can definitely see the Falcons ruining the tank by beating the Bucs at home in December.
No, I hope we're not talking about the tank again at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, we'll be talking about how we lost out on Evan Neal at the end of the season
like
because
that. Yep, it'll be like, oh, we could have had Kayvon Thibodeau, if not for that like late season win or something like that.
Yeah, and then we'll like string 2 or 3 together, and we'll end up with like the 13th pick.
Exactly. I'm still holding firm on my 18th pick prediction, but we'll see. So I'm not changing my prediction after 2 games. I was expecting them to go 500, and nothing they've done so far makes me think they're not a 500 team. I think they'll be better, later. Though, like right now it's rough, but hopefully they'll have 2 better games later on. All right, we got another $5 from George Costanza. Thank you again, George. He says also Fowler got a sack, so on his just 1 sack now has the same number of tackles as Richie Grant on the year. We are talking now about McGarry being a possible bust. I mean I think we are.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Like at this point, it's when you're in year 3 and when you're doing this, like it's fair to use the B word.
Yeah, I mean it's year 3, so like if he can't be at least a solid starter as a first rounder, I think that's definitely getting into bust territory.
And don't get me wrong, I would love for McGarry for something to just click for him, and for him to become one of the elite right tackles in the NFL, and then we're just all gonna sing his praises and we're gonna celebrate. But right now, like, he has showed nothing suggesting that he was worth that first round pick in that trade up at all in his entire NFL career. Like he's had flashes, he's had like a singular game here and there, but so far the big picture, he's been pretty terrible. Like his first year, I think he led the league in sacks allowed. Last year he was better because you can't possibly be worse than that.
Yeah. I mean,
he was still very below average last year too. Yeah. Like he wasn't like a replacement level starter last season.
Yeah, PFF really did not like his game. So I mean, I think that's definitely a rising to level of concern. So it wouldn't, I think what we're hoping for is obviously McGarry to rebound and Jalen Mayfield to look good and Hennessy to look good, and then it's like, okay, maybe your offensive line is more or less set going in next year, but I think one way or another, we're probably going to have to spend another either first or day 2 pick on offensive line. It'll probably be day 2, more than likely. We do have an extra second, so it's important to know, but like either McGarry's going to show he can be the starter or Gono's going to take over and show that he's going to be the starter, or we're going to have to find a new right tackle. So, at least we'll know at the end of this year.
And you don't want to do that. You don't want to have to do that. Yeah. Like this defense has enough holes to where you don't want to be diverting draft capital to fix the offensive line and to reinvest investments you've already made from years prior.
Yeah.
However, if it's a sunk cost, it's a sunk cost.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing you can possibly do is have a sunk cost and not recognize it and just blind yourself to it, because then it'll just sink your team.
Yeah, I agree. And like that's the thing. I think if Dimitrov is still here, like McGarry would get every chance in the world to show that he could be the starter, including probably still getting the starting job next year, even if he's bad this year. And they might even still give him his 5th-year option just because they're crazy. But I don't think this coaching staff has any loyalty to McGarry. So if he plays poorly, I don't think he's going to be, the starter next year. Maybe he's, at his salary, I think it's still fair to keep him around as the swing tackle. I think, you don't necessarily cut him next year, but I think if he doesn't show improvement over the course of this year to where he's at least a solid starter, or if Matt Gono comes in and is a much better player, we're gonna be moving on. I don't think they have any loyalty to him necessarily. So let's see. I know there was a question in the chat that I wanted to address, but I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, I know Nico brought up Isaiah Oliver playing well, and I agree. Like I think Oliver has been one of our best run defenders in the secondary for sure, and I think he's done about as much as we could ask in coverage. Oliver on Chris Godwin, that's a really hard matchup for him in pretty much any slot corner. Godwin's one of the best in the NFL in the slot, and I think the coverage wasn't awful there. It just, Godwin jumped up in the air and made a great catch on that touchdown. So, I think Oliver has been pretty good.
Solid slot corner, mm-hmm. And it's not. I'm happy. I'm really rooting for Isaiah Oliver. Like I don't like criticizing anyone, mm-hmm. And Isaiah Oliver. Like I'm happy to see him doing well, and maybe he'll even stick around for another contract here.
Yeah. I don't think he'll be expensive. So if he's going to come back, for a few million as sort of their slot guy, that could be a good option because I think they're going to have to plug some of these holes by re-signing a few of these guys. And I think Moreau has been encouraging. Obviously, he got mossed by Mike Evans, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen to a lot of corners this year. But I think on the whole, the corners were actually playing pretty decently. AJ Terrell, obviously we'll hope that he doesn't have to miss time, but yeah. All right. So anything else you want to touch on, Adnan, before we get out of here, or do you want to save it for the Wednesday show?
Nope. Just check us out on Wednesday night. We do our weekly shows. So yeah, we'll talk more in depth about this game. And we'll talk about the Giants game.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
definitely. This is the plug for the show. We do this every week, off season and regular season, every Wednesday at 8:10 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's I know Jeff Schultz just tweeted out that the Falcons are expected to waive punter Cameron Nazialek this week.
No surprise there.
Yeah, those two shanks were absolutely brutal. And it's a shame. It's a shame because I think he has a true cannon leg, but he's just too inconsistent with it. So
he was great in preseason, but it's a lot less pressure in preseason.
It is. So sad to hear that he's going. Obviously, I wish it had worked out, but yeah, the Falcons are going to be looking for a new punter this week. Ray, I know you. I owe you film analysis. My Game Pass is all jacked up, and the new player is just so bad. So I tried to start that, and it was just not cooperating with my recording. So I think I have it figured out. I think I should be able to get you guys a film breakdown this week, but no promises until I actually record it. But it is something I'm working on, and you will have some this year. I guarantee it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. I know we saw several people joining up. We appreciate all you guys. We do. We have a show on Wednesday nights at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. And this week we will have Falcons kicker Matt Bryant joining us. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune in for that one. Patrons, if you have questions for Bryant, make sure to send those to us on Patreon. I don't know exactly how long we'll be around, but hopefully we'll be able to get a few patron questions in. So get those into us for sure. And if you'd like to take part in all of our Patreon activities. You can sign up at patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. A lot of fun, a lot of exclusive content there. So check that out. And like I said, just like and subscribe, follow my co-host Adnan Ikic. He's at Say Which Way. Adnan, anything you're working on you'd like to let the people know about?
Yep. Fantasy stud and dud tomorrow, and I'll have an article this week about the Falcons player of the game for this one. So it'll be a lot easier to pick than it was for you last week.
Yeah, there at least were some. I mean, yeah. Cordaro Patterson still the player of the game for me. He was the player of the game last week too. So
he may be highlighted again.
Maybe.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned for that one, folks. Also, guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on the Twitters. You can check out all my work on thefalcoholic.com. Like Ray mentioned, I do other videos here on YouTube. I will be doing film reviews and things like that. As soon as I can get Game Pass freaking working, it would also be nice if they'd give me Coach's film, but, we can't apparently have everything that we want. But yeah, I am getting cracking on that. We'll have more patron stuff coming up here. And like I said, Wednesday's show with Matt Bryant starts at 8:10 p.m. Eastern, so check that out, guys. That one's going to be a lot of fun as well. We'll be back, like I said, on Wednesday to preview the upcoming Giants game, which hopefully will be against an opponent that's more the Falcons' speed. But, you never know with this team. We'll see. Until then, guys, for myself and for Adnan, have a great night. Enjoy what should be hopefully a fun Sunday night football game between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Until next time, guys, have a great night. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.